Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is the Mental Wellness Channel with Waihiga. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. If this is your first time here, welcome. I hope you stick around and take a listen to what I have to say. Before I get started, if you like to know what I'm using on my lips, Fenty Beauty. Yes, this is Lip Stunner Uncensored. That's the color, Lip Stunner. I absolutely love it. Fenty Beauty, if you want to do business with me, I am so available. I love Fenty Beauty. This is the only product I have from them, and I must say it's absolutely marvelous. I love this lipstick so much. It's perfect. Yeah, so Fenty Beauty by Rihanna. And it's available here in Kenya. So I would suggest that if you like this lip that I wear, this is Uncensored by Fenty Beauty and it's called Lip Stunner. So you can get it. And Fenty Beauty, if you'd want to work with me, I got you. Today I want to talk about something really interesting. And I don't know if this is going to be a light-hearted video or a deep video, but it's something that I've been thinking about lately, which is where do I belong? Where do I belong? And obviously I'm Kenyan. I'm a Kenyan girl. I live here in Nairobi, but I also grew up in South Africa. And for many years, I lived in South Africa in Pretoria, and I want to take you back to my childhood. So when I was 9 years old in 2001, as a family, we moved to Pretoria, and we lived in Pretoria. We first lived in Waterkloof Ridge, and then we moved to Constantia Park. And South Africa is really interesting. It is such a beautiful country. And the interesting thing about South Africans is that they're very outspoken, they're very direct, very, very direct. If a South African has a problem with you, you're gonna know. Very direct, straight to the point, don't beat around the bush. And they're basically very, very rich in culture, in substance. I absolutely love their culture and their heritage. Obviously, they come from a very hard and difficult culture when it comes to apartheid, which was the law for many years before the ANC came into power in 1994. So the apartheid laws was that white people and black people and Indians and coloreds and basically all people had to be separated. All races had to be separated. Races were not meant to mix. Races were not meant to mix and mingle. Be in a relationship, be in the same kind of transport together, whites in the front or whatever, blacks in the back, living in different locations also, different entrances to the same building. You know, white people came in from one side, black people had to come in from another. Yes, restaurants and that type of thing. So it was a very fraught history that South Africa has with apartheid, and they don't hide that history. And so when I got to South Africa, I obviously was a child, wasn't really aware of the fact that I was a black person, first of all. I mean, I grew up I was a baby. I'd only seen black people in my life. And living in Kenya, that's basically what I saw. Wasn't aware so much of white people. And in Kenya, we call white people Mzungus. The only white people I saw were tourists. So I didn't know that you could go to a country in Africa and see white people living there as citizens, if that makes sense. So I didn't know there were actually African white people, if that makes sense. And so I was very shocked to go to South Africa and realize that there were so many white people. And on top of that, they actually live here. Like, they're not here on vacation, like, they live here. So that was really cool. I got to interact with many white people, many black people, South Africans, Indians, who also lived in South Africa as South Africans, which is similar to Kenya, because in Kenya we also have an Asian community who are Kenyan. And I found that very interesting. So my life in South Africa growing up from the age of 9 to 18, those were, I consider, my formative years. It instilled in me a lot of confidence. I believe that growing up in South Africa made me very outspoken. Very outspoken. I'm also a very direct person. I want to get straight to the point. I don't beat around the bush in terms of my friendships or in terms of getting to know someone. I like to know straight up, are we friends? Are we not friends? Do you like me? Do you don't? Why don't you? Let's move on with life. And so and another interesting thing is in South Africa, because I was obviously on the outside, I'm seeing being looked at as a black person. Everyone would talk to me either in Zulu. Oh, well, we were staying in Gauteng, so I was seen as obviously a South African. So someone would speak to me in Sesotho, Northern Sotho, Southern Sotho, Tswana, or Zulu. And I would be like, I don't speak none of that. They'll be like, then where are you from? Why don't you speak, why don't you speak any of these languages? And I'm like, I'm Kenyan. And they're like, Kenyan? Kenyan? What's that? I'm like, I'm from Kenya. And they'd be like, yeah, well, you've been here long enough. You better know the language, ne? You better know. And I'd be like, I'm sorry, I don't know. And they'd be like, hey, Kenya, where's that? And I'm like, it's in East Africa. And they'd be like, hey, well, you must know. You must know. And so I'd kind of feel bad because here I am, this Kenyan girl in South Africa, and I don't know how to communicate with the people I'm essentially in their country, And I was studying Northern Sotho in high school and in primary school because it was a requirement for me to be in school. I had to study a second language. And so I studied Northern Sotho. In primary school, I was really good at it. But then things got really conk. I mean, because in primary school, I was learning it as a third language. But then in high school, it became a second language. And it became so difficult. Oh my gosh. Yo, Northern Sotho. Wow. Northern Sotho was so hard. Oh, and then I was in class with other, South Africans and like one Malawian who was really smart. Ooh, that girl was smart. And basically, they knew the language. Like, they used to speak it at home and stuff. So I was just there like, yeah, no, this isn't gonna work. And I remember I tried to go to Afrikaans for 2 days and I couldn't do it because the classes were full, first of all. And they're learning at such a fast rate because everybody in the class understands Afrikaans, knows Afrikaans, writes Afrikaans. And South Africa has 11 official languages. 11. So everybody knew Afrikaans. I couldn't take Afrikaans as a second language. It just wasn't a beginner level. And so I went back to Northern Sotho. And it showed me flames. So when I'd be, luckily my friends in school and everything, all South Africans were great, Everyone was great. It's just when I'd be outside of my safety net, when I'm in the supermarket, when I'm in the malls, whenever I'm doing my own thing. When I'm taking a taxi in South Africa is a matatu. When I'm taking a taxi, the public transport, that's when, I'd get into problems because everyone's asking me, why don't you know the language? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't tell you why. I study it, but I don't get it. And then the conversation would be like, okay, you're Kenyan, why are you here? And it's like, I'm here though. I'm here. Yeah, that was kind of my experience. So I kind of felt like, okay, but I'm African. As much as I was welcomed in South Africa, there was a part of me that felt still like a foreigner, living in South Africa. And obviously there's been news reports, and unfortunately, as a foreigner, as an African foreigner living in South Africa, there is the very real fact that xenophobia is alive. That's even the first time I heard the word xenophobia. Zimbabwean nationals, people who come from Mozambique, people who come from whichever countries they're coming from, seeking asylum in South Africa. But the closest country, with a failed economy normally was Zimbabwe. They would come to South Africa, for a hope and a future. And those foreigners were treated really badly in South Africa. And it's a fact, these things have happened and they still happen. And there would be a part of me that would feel like, okay, well, I don't belong here, as much as I love this country. And I do. I think South Africa matches my personality a lot. Very diverse, very open-minded, very express yourself outwardly. Articulate yourself outwardly. Dance, food, art. Drama is taken seriously in South Africa. If you say you want to be an actor there, like, people will take you seriously. It's not looked at like, well, okay. People are very serious about their craft there. And I love that about South Africa. And the people are just so rich. So, but I used to have that hole in me. Like, I don't feel like I belong. So I thought that would change when I came back home. So I came back home. I came back home in 2011. And Kenya is also very different from South Africa. We're not as expressive as a nation. We're known to be very friendly, very accommodating. We definitely are a tourist country. We are Maasai land. We are white beaches, turquoise water. We are, Mount Kenya. We are scenic views. We are calm people. We love to make money. We push our economy, We really love to make that go up. We love to make money. And, you won't be stranded for long in Kenya. As a foreigner, as a newcomer to Kenya, you won't be stranded for long. Even as a native, as a person who's from Kenya. If my car breaks down or something, I know I can get help or something from strangers. That's how we are as Kenyans. But then also, we have this thing where we're a bit hypocritical as a society, and it trickles down to our interactions face to face in real life, where we're not direct. We're not direct like South Africans. So Kenyans will be very friendly to you, very friendly, but there's a hidden agenda. So we'll be very friendly to you, but then turn around and gossip. Or you think you're friends with someone, like for decades or years or something, and find out in the worst way that, oh yeah, me and this person are actually not friends. And they won't even be like a talk or anything. You'll just find out through actions that, oh my gosh, we're actually not friends. So there's a lot of talking between people. I find that here. So when I came back to Kenya, I thought people would be like more accepting that, okay, I don't know Northern Sutu. I don't know Kiswahili well because I didn't grow up here. I didn't go to school here, well, for my formative years. And so what I know is English, and let's just go, you know? I'm in Kenya, I'm back home, and things should be great. No. No. I mean, for the most part, people have been okay with it, but here and there, people will insist on speaking in Swahili, and I'll have to insist in speaking in broken Swahili. So I know enough broken Swahili to get me to town, like to the CBD and back home. But I won't keep it up for long if we're going into a deep conversation, because now I just don't understand what you're saying. And it's not like in an arrogant way, it's not ignorance, it's just I don't know. So I switched to English. And in Kenya, we have two official languages, English and Kiswahili. So everybody, most people know English, most people know Swahili. I know English, I don't know Swahili. So I switched to English because that's what I know. And then that's when people will say, stop pretending like you don't know Swahili in Swahili. And I'm like, but I don't. Like, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? So the other day, what prompted me to do this video is the other day I was getting something from the gate, and the watchman was having a problem with me for some reason. And so we go back and forth. He's talking in Swahili and I'm talking in broken Swahili. And then he keeps reiterating the same thing, and I'm trying to tell him, okay, now I'm just gonna talk in English because it's not making sense. So I'm starting to tell him, no, this is what happened. And then he told me in Swahili, Madam, don't act like you don't know Swahili now. And I was like, I mean, I didn't show him that face. I didn't do that. But that is the voice that like that is what I did in my head. I just went, ooh, you touched a nerve. So I kept quiet. I said, okay. And I just walked off because I could feel the anger bubbling up. I could feel that I wanted to defend myself, and I was gonna start, I don't know what was gonna come out of my mouth. And I was gonna project the same things that I felt growing up, being in SA, coming back to Kenya, and now in this moment, you're telling me things that I have tried to overcome from forever. And I was gonna project that onto him. Like, all my life, I've been told that. All my life, I've been told, you're pretending you don't speak English. You're pretending you don't speak Swahili. Or you're pretending you don't speak Northern Sutu. Or you're pretending you don't speak this or you don't speak that. Just to get away with this situation. Like, how would that benefit me in any way? It kind of makes me feel like the person thinks I'm too good. I'm trying to be too good for them in that situation. So I just want to get away from the situation. And I'm not. I just don't understand the language. And I wish that people could just empathize, but they won't. So It's either I learn the language, which is, it's not gonna happen for me. You know, I'm 30 years old. It just won't happen for me. I'm not that type of person. I'm not a linguistic person. I'm just not. Or, you know, I stop trying to fit into people's boxes of what they want me to be. Okay, I'm an African girl. I'm a Kenyan girl. I live here and I don't know the language. So what are we going to do? You know, it's either accept me as I am or we just don't talk. You know, doesn't mean that I'm trying to be better than, doesn't mean that I'm trying to be above the situation or whatever. I just don't know what to say or how to communicate with you in this dialect. That's all, you know? And it just leads me to this question. Especially, you know, children who are biracial, you know, of two different races, or children who have grown up, who are from one country, who have one, like you were born in Kenya and then you were raised in a different country and then you came back to Kenya. How is that? How is that working out for you? You know? Because, I mean, on the most part, I'm sure it's positive, you know, to come back home. Home is home. Home is home. You don't feel like you're being intrusive. You don't feel like you're being in someone else's space. You don't feel like you could be deported any day. You know, you don't feel like you could be put in jail because you don't have your passport on you. You don't feel any of those things. You don't feel like, oh my gosh, all of my friends are getting their driver's license, but I can't get my driver's license because I'm an international student. You know, you don't feel those things. However, when you are from a certain country, you go live abroad, and then you come back home, there are certain expectations that your countrymen have of you. And when you don't meet them, there's kind of this air of you're being arrogant, you think you're better than me because your accent is different, because you're talking English, because your English is good. And that's not, in fact, the point. I just have a different life experience. I just have a different life experience. And it happens everywhere I go, whether it's to interviews for a job. Why don't you speak Swahili? Why don't you speak Northern Sutu? Or wherever it is. And I just think it's a bit unfair. Just because I have a different background that is different from the norm, you know, it doesn't mean that I'm trying to be better than. Doesn't mean that at all. In fact, I love my background. I love the fact that I got to grow up in South Africa because I think it made me the person I am today. It made me outspoken. It made me confident. It gave me dreams that are far beyond what I see my society dreaming about. It gave me a rich background. It made me so sympathetic to ideas of racism, colorism, and so many other things. So many other things. Made me more open-minded. Things that I know in our Kenyan society we're not open-minded to. It made me want to, even gave me the confidence to be able to say, you know what, I want to open the mental wellness channel so that we can talk about alcoholism. You know, something that here we don't speak about openly. Actually, alcoholism just is stigmatized all over the world, so that's not unique. It just isn't. But, you know, having that South African background has given me a backbone. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, you know. I wouldn't. It gave me my taste in music. I'm a piano, you know, kwaito music. It gave me all those beautiful things. House music, beautiful food, amazing sense of fashion. I mean, South Africa is it. But Kenya is also it. Kenya is also it. We're the fastest growing economy in East Africa, you know. We are very cool people, especially our generation. We are so accepting, so open-minded. And I love that about us. So it's just these people here and there that make me wonder, where do I belong? If not there, if not in my own country, then where do I belong, despite my background? I would like to ask you guys, please send me your questions, because I would like to get to know you a bit better. So if you have more intimate kind of questions for me, please send them to me on Instagram. My name is Waihiga Mutero. You can follow me there. And I will just read them, go through them, and probably make a video about them here. And if you'd like to comment about your thoughts on this video, please let me know in the comments section. Until we meet again, goodbye.